Where are you taking these prisoners?
These are prisoners.
Yes, where are you taking them?
I am taking them to imprison them in prison.
Hi, Mojtaba. I hope I pronounced your name right. Congratulations for winning the 11-second club. I think you did a great job with this shot. It's very funny. I think you had a really funny idea for the whole situation. And I really like the snappy timing that you have. I think that's sort of the strongest thing about this, your sense of comedic timing. So I guess first I should tell you my name's Jay Jackson. I've been an animator for about 35 years, and I've worked on about 30 features, or pictures at least. Some have been shorts. My main experience was at Disney, where I was a traditional animator. I started on The Fox and the Hound after I went through training with one of the 9 old men, Eric Larson. So I've also done some CG animation over the years, and my favorite projects have been The Little Mermaid, where I did a lot of the animation of Sebastian the Crab, and Tarzan, where I was lead animator on the gorilla family. Okay, so back to your shot. I'll give you some thoughts that I have, which a lot of my ideas are basically acting choices. So they are a matter of opinion, and I want to just stress that right off the bat. In one of the, well, let's go ahead and play the shot, and I'll tell you my first reactions.
Where are you taking these prisoners?
Let's start over again.
Where are you taking these prisoners?
These are prisoners.
Yes, where are you taking them?
I am taking them to imprison them in prison.
Okay, so I got the overall idea that this guy's a little surprised that these beautiful girls are prisoners, and he's a little flustered about that. I was confused by the first shot. I felt like that big movement in the very beginning was much bigger than it needs to be. I think you're just trying to sell the idea that he's kind of flirting with them or giving them a little acknowledgement. And I think it would be actually stronger with less movement. So, I think if you had just started with his hand up here, maybe, and him looking at them and just kind of going to something kind of simple, and then a wink or whatever, or a head nod, I think that would have been clearer. And then I also had kind of an issue right here. You're doing a movement on the body and both hands at the same time, where I feel like everything is hitting a key right around frame 13 or 14. And the fact that both hands move quickly and stop at the same time is something that I would try to avoid if I were you. Because it makes the audience, it made me confused as to which hand should I look at. If they both move, whatever moves quickly and stops tends to draw your eye. And when two things do that, I'm thinking, which hand should I look at? What's important here? So back to my original idea, one of my original thought is if you had a smaller movement there, see, how's it go? Yeah, I would do a movement like that, and let's see. I'm not sure about what to do with the radio.
Where are you taking these prisoners?
Well, I don't think you really need a big movement on his left hand with the radio. I almost think you could just start in a pose that's very similar to the one you're in right now, the one he's in. Yeah, so like if the starting pose were just something more like this, And with this hand just pretty much where it is. I was just debating about the angle on the body. Anyway, let me just stay focused on the arms for right now. But I think if you just started here in where my drawing is, and then you went into this pose with just a little bit of moving hold on the other hand, I think it would be fine. And all your attention would be here and on its face, because we don't really need attention on the radio until sort of the end of the scene. So yeah, and then he hears the voice coming from the radio, and then he lifts it up. So I think that would work fine. This part works fine. Whenever possible, you always want to make sure you avoid tangents, and you want to get the cleanest silhouette you can get. So, rather than holding the phone here, it'd be better if you, the radio. I think you could have held it up a little bit more. And yeah, so I think this would have been a good spot to hold the radio, and then it'd be dark against light right there, and it would be nice clean silhouette. And it's nice to get negative space in here in between the head and the hand. And like I started to say, you want to avoid something, a tangent like this, where the edge of the fingers seems to be touching the side of his body. Okay.
These are prisoners.
Yes.
Okay, so then the next thing I noticed is that he does that gesture 4 times in your shot, which is kind of a lot in a shot that's this short. I don't think he needs to point at them so much. I mean, there's a couple of issues. One is, I don't think it's necessarily good to keep repeating a pose. It'd be more interesting if you did a variation, a bigger variation on the pose. But also, there are just times when he points at them where it seems kind of odd to me. Like in the beginning, he's kind of pointing at them like, hey, baby, which kind of makes sense. But this time when he goes, these are prisoners.
These are prisoners.
Like, he's pointing at them and leaning towards them, almost as if he's talking to them. And it seems to me like he would be more like talking to the radio at that point and be like, these are prisoners? He could be doing something like, these are prisoners. Like if he's going to point, maybe he could point with his thumb, but these are prisoners? There I don't think it needs to be I don't think it needs to be a huge gesture, because it's more about what's going on in his head, like, oh, you're kidding me, right? These are prisoners? And then, these are prisoners? Then he could maybe look at him and wave a little if you want, which I think is kind of funny. But I'm not sure he needs to move forward towards them so much right there. These are prisoners? Yeah, anyway, that's just how I think I might have chosen to act out that shot.
The prisoners.
Yes. Where are you taking them?
I am taking them to imprison them in prison.
Okay, so then you have more of the pointing. Let's see.
These are prisoners.
Yes. Where are you taking them?
I am taking them
And I'm not sure you need to point at them again there either. Like, I am taking them. I'm taking them. I mean, he could sort of gesture towards them. I'm taking them. Or could be mostly a wrist thing. I'm taking them to imprison them. Imprison.
Taking them to imprison them in prison.
Okay. Yeah, and I have to say, I don't quite understand the gesture for imprison. I like the way you animated it. I mean, everything that you've animated, I think, is interesting. I like the way you added, you've distorted the hand a bit and done some kind of fun flourishes with it. Yeah, and right here too, you've stretched it and done some crazy stuff. And that's pretty cool. I mean, I think it looks pretty nice. I just don't quite understand the gesture. Like, it almost seems like he's gesturing like, I'm going to put him under the tunnel or something. It's just, that's what it kind of feels like to me, as opposed to, I'm going to imprison them in prison. And I know he doesn't say it that way. He's kind of making it up as he goes. So in a way, I feel like he should have kind of a less confident movement there, because it's like he's thinking, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do with them. I'm taking them to imprison them in prison. So I think right there would have been an interesting place to kind of show uncertainty with his acting, like maybe like some eye darts back and forth, like like I'm not sure what I'm going to do. Again, it's just a different acting choice.
In prison.
Let's see, I missed it. Where was that?
To imprison them in prison.
Yeah, so you've got that nice pause there right now where nothing is happening. That's where I would have put in some eye darts to show that he's thinking. So just as a general piece of advice, whenever you can make your character feel like they're thinking, you're going to add a lot to your animation, because it's going to make the audience feel like this is a real character with a brain, as opposed to just a puppet, going through motions. So anytime you can, usually the best way to show thinking is with eye darts, or, there's a lot of different ways you could convey thinking, but eye darts is one of the simple, entertaining ways. And it would definitely work here if he just sort of darted left and right while he was pausing there.
To imprison them.
So right there, if you just get a little eye dart. I don't know, I'd probably go down into the left, and then a few frames later, I would go down and to the right, something like that. And, eye darts can be super fast. Like, you only need one or two in between sometimes. So you just sort of quickly move into a pose, hold, and then quickly move them to the other side and hold, and then maybe move back again or something.
To imprison them in prison.
Obviously, right now it just pops on and off too fast, but if you were able to hold those a little bit, it would look pretty cool, I think. But again, I just feel like the pointing is too much. So
taking them
to imprison them in prison. That's probably what I would have done, which is simpler. But I mean, there are other things you could do. I'm taking them to imprison them in prison. You know, you could just sort of gesture like that, like prison is back that way and they're over there. So that's another option for you.
To imprison them in prison.
Okay, and then this last shot, it's another case where the arms are kind of twinning, at least when they hit the bottom. They both seem to be sort of falling at the same speed and then hit at the same time. It probably would be nicer if you just delayed one by a few frames so that they felt a little, I think it would loosen up your shot and not make it feel so not so robotic right there. But it's actually, now that I look at it again, it's not just that the hands are coming down, but it's that the whole body and the head, like everything just feels like it's moving from pose A to pose B with the same timing, you know, and you always want to get in, work in some offsetting if you can, where the head is on a different timing than the hands, and maybe one hand is a little different than the other hand. Even if it's just a few frames, it will, you won't necessarily see it, but you'll just kind of feel it. And that could really help.
Where are you taking these prisoners?
These are prisoners.
Yes, where are you taking them?
I am taking them to imprison them.
By the way, I like the gesture where he grabs his hat. It's like sort of like a stalling thing. It's sort of like scratching your head, but I think that works pretty well. And that does show some thought process, so that's good.
I am taking them to imprison them in prison. Taking them to imprison them in prison.
And there at the end when he says in prison, it seems to me like he should be looking down at the phone. I'm sorry, the radio. I'm taking them to prison, you know, because he is talking to his officer, you know, his superior, right? Whereas I mean, this just is a little bit confusing to me. It's kind of a funny pose, but it just looks like he's, it does convey confusion. But anyway, like I said, I just think I would have him look at the prison. Because also, I think it's important that he look away from them because they're over here, right? And they're getting ready to drive away, and we want to be sure he doesn't notice that. So I think by having him look down in this direction makes it even funnier that they, you know, his attention is turned away from them, and then they drive off. Because yeah, see here you have him basically facing this direction, at least with his head. Maybe his eyes are looking at them, but actually I'm not sure what his eyes are doing. It's a little hard to see there. But I think it would be good actually if his eyes were still looking down in this direction, looking down at the radio, and then he turns into this pose and then sort of gives up and then kind of waves. And a little bit of polishing there on that hand would probably help, where you could just loosen up the thumb a little bit or something. Everything feels pretty stiff and mechanical right there. It just feels like it's all wrist movement. So just a little bit of, I would, probably separate his thumb, like I said, and maybe just add a little bit of music, a little bit of movement, a little bit of overlap or something, but just very subtle. Okay, I think that's all my thoughts for you. I hope that helps. Again, nice work though, and uh, keep up the work. Good work with the snappy timing. I like to see that. Um, okay, all right, take care.